I'm Samantha Brown, professional organizer, decluttering specialist, and business coach. I created Pro Organizers Coach podcast to empower you to reach new heights in your business. I am on a mission to build a supportive sisterhood of passionate professional organizers. So whether you're a seasoned pro or you're just getting started, this podcast is for you. Hey friends, welcome back to the Pro Organizers Coach podcast. Today I have Lee Baucom with me, and he has the Book to Business Blueprint. And he actually helps people write books. He has grown his business through writing books. And I know for a lot of us, specifically as organizers, writing a book is the natural next step or progression to help build our business, because whether it's helping people learn how to declutter or whatever the thing is, we all have a lot to teach. We're helpers. We want to teach others. And so we're going to dive all into that today. So thank you, Lee, for being on the show.
Well, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
All right. So tell us a little bit about you, and then we'll dive into the topic.
Yeah, so I was trained as a therapist, and after that, I switched over to coaching. And the reason I switched over to coaching was mainly because I was discouraged with the results of what marriage therapy was doing. And that led me to say, okay, if I'm going to be upset about something, I need to do something about that, like write what I do think. And so I wrote about what was working for people, what was helping marriages. And I really thought that was just kind of a sad thing. This was back in 1999. So whole last century website goes up in 1999. And I started getting sales from that book. And so I thought, well, that's kind of cool. I'll be in my office seeing people have this thing online, get some money from the book sales. And then I started building the business by accident based on the book. And so I don't want people to make that same mistake. A book is a great way of building a business. The mistake is for people to think that the book is the business. And that's why it's perfectly set for people who are organizers, because you know your business is organizing, right? So the book can be a way of augmenting that and building your business more specifically based on your particular way of doing it, your particular approach, your branding that can be in there, and so many ways you can use that book to really be the person in your area, whether that's geographic or your own specialty of that.
Yeah, I mean, that makes complete sense. And it gives you authority, right? Like you're saying, it makes you the go-to person, but it's kind of like having a podcast. There's something about having a podcast that opens doors for you, because when you tell people like, hey, I've got a podcast, like, oh my gosh, what's it about? It's the same thing I would assume when you say I have a book, or even if there's clients that you can't necessarily help or can't afford your services, it's a way for them to purchase something. Now, whether they read it and use your tips, that's on them. But especially as organizers, I know a lot of people reach out and they're like, I can't afford your services, or I'm going to have to save up for your services. And so, especially if it was kind of a how to declutter, or, because a lot of us, like you said, have our niche, whether we're helping people with ADHD or chronic disorganization or whatever, the overwhelmed mom. I think that's awesome. So, what are some of the kind of like ways to go about this? Because I know you said you're very passionate about the book isn't your business.
Right.
So, as an organizer, how would we know, okay, doing a book is like the next step, or it's something I should add? Is it when we're first starting, or like what's kind of your advice for people?
Yeah, so let's go back just for a minute. You noted something, and I just want to highlight it. You talked about the book giving you authority. I just want to
Mm-hmm.
note that the first part of that word authority is author, and it's there
Oh,
for a reason, right? The author has for history been the authority about something, because if you're able to sit down and write an entire book, you're proving your knowledge base, kind of like doing a podcast. You're proving
mm-hmm.
that you are able to think through that. Thought leadership is part of what's involved in that. And so let's now just dial it in for organizers. So I've known several different organizers, and I realized how differently they approach things. And even if they kind of are in the same space, they still approach things their own way. So when you're at a place where you have your own way, that's a good time to write the book. You have your own way. To take it a step further, writing a book makes you really clear about your own way. And so it helps you even after the fact. So when you sit down and write a book, you have to put this in order, which, by the way, is why organizers can do this so well, because they can do it in order, right? I've met
Hmm.
people who could not write a book because they could not get everything in order. And just observation, that's what
Right.
organizers are really good at.
Yes.
And so that helps them. And thinking
Yeah.
about how to deliver that information is an organizational piece anyway. So you're not only talking about how you do it, but you're proving your own thing as you're doing it. So as people write, they become much more clear about how they do things.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's a huge point too, because I know for a lot of us, especially when we first get started, we have no idea what our niche is, which of course we don't. We've not worked with clients. We have no clue. And we're not like, a doctor or someone that like went for a specialty. Like we have to get out there, work with clients, figure out what we do. And so for some of us, that comes a little bit sooner. For some of us, it's a little bit later. But we do start to hone in on those things of, like you said, what are our steps? What are the ways that we do it? The reason I started this podcast was because all of the teaching that was out there when I first started it was not lining up with the way I wanted to do it. And
Mhm.
I'm like, this makes no sense to me. And so trying to figure out, because I had to go through a lot of these same steps to start the podcast. What do I want to talk about? What's my process? All of those types of things. And so it is very similar in that way. And I think, like you said, as an organizer, I think a lot of us almost doubt ourselves sometimes, or we don't realize that we do have our own way of doing because we're so used to doing it. It comes natural to us. It's just how we do it. And so, I think, like you said, putting it on paper and writing the book is then going to mirror it back to you. So then you're able to talk to your clients a lot easier about what you do and make sure that a lot of your messaging is relaying that as well.
So let's give a little exercise for people because I think this will prove the point. Um,
Yeah.
Instead of writing a book, I want people to write down their framework. And a
Mm.
framework is how you do things, right? And so the simple question is, when you have a customer or a client, how do you lead them through the process? Start with how you get them to see the issue and how you are going to move into that issue, and then how you actually do it. Like, how do you carry that out? I think that would be a pretty typical kind of flow for an organizer.
Yep.
And be very specific about how you go about it. Like, how are you thinking through what they need to capture, what you see as what they're struggling with? I mean, all of those pieces are part of that. And just write it down like in a multi-step process. Some people have like, a three-step process, four-step process. I don't care if it's a 10-step process, but lay it out in the steps one by one. And I think what you'll notice, it may take thinking about more than one client. Like, if you think about, well, how have I done it for the last 5 or 10 clients? You're going to notice that you probably followed several different pieces. Now, you may have realized that you maybe that particular client you had to speak to in a certain way because you picked up something. Notice what
Hmm.
you picked up, and you change it for somebody else. Notice why you pivoted to that, and what is the bigger underneath it. And you create a framework. Now, the reason I point that out is because a book should have a framework in it. And if it's an organizer's book, it particularly should have an organized framework in it. And at that point, you will have created that.
Yeah. I mean, and honestly, I love frameworks. Like frameworks make me happy. And of course, as an organizer, duh. But, I didn't even, and I know this is going to sound crazy, but it was maybe like a year ago I came across someone that the word framework actually like,
Mhm.
wait, what is that exactly? Right.
Yep.
And so once I started diving into like, well, wait, what is a framework technically? And I started looking into it, I'm like, oh, I love frameworks. Like
Yeah.
this is exactly, and it's essentially, like you said, your step-by-step process of how you do things and how you go about doing them so they can be repeated and the framework can be repeated no matter who it is that's doing the work or doing the whatever. And coming up with the framework for like my courses and stuff, that's how I ended up with my 4 courses I have that I sell for people, right? Is because I'm like, okay, step 1, we got to start the legal stuff. Step 2, we need a website. Step 3, we got to learn to work with clients. And step 4, we got to market it. So like it became my like 4-step framework. But it did take time. Like you said, it took a lot of time on focusing on each piece and looking at, okay, the people I've coached with, what were the common questions coming up and what were the things that I was doing over and over and over again. And so is that kind of what you do with your clients once they reach out to you with the coaching piece?
So a lot of times I have people who come to me who have already written a book and they still aren't aware
Oh,
of their framework. They're still
okay.
lost in and without the framework. And the reason for that is it's human nature that you do things a certain way, but you don't see that you do it a certain way, right? It's like
Hmm.
talking to a fish, tell me about the water there. I mean, it's just out there, right? And so
Yeah.
you just do your thing. A specific thing I see as kind of the superpower for organizers writing a book is the what you just pointed to, the organizing that's already in place. So you do it more naturally. But sometimes it is helpful for somebody to say, you do have a framework. You just may not have identified it yet. Multiple times I've been interviewing somebody on a podcast I don't even do anymore. And I've read their material and I'll say, well, this sounds like this is what you do. And they look at me like I've never thought of it that way. And I'm like, it's there. You just missed it, right? You haven't
Yeah.
seen it. And so what you're talking about is something that some people don't know they do, but they
Mm.
do. Well, with the exception of if somebody's just starting out, you're probably
Hmm.
doing it the way somebody else was doing it that you learned from. So
Absolutely.
that's a beginning point, and that is how we all start. When I was being trained as a therapist, we all were taught the same kind of stuff. And then you start figuring out how you do it and how you interact with things and how you understand things. That's the framework that starts to emerge. That's mastery. And
Hmm.
it's your thumbprint, right? It's how you do things. And that framework ends up being why people are interested in working with you. First of all, they may not care what the framework is, but second, you have one and they go, okay, they know what they're doing, right? That is that
Yes.
authority piece. It's also the confidence piece they have. Now, since I've had this conversation with several people before, they're like, if I do this, like if I write this book, nobody's going to want me. They're going to they'll have how to do it and they won't need me. And
Oh,
so
totally false.
it is entirely, well, it's possible that some will do that. And those
Yes.
are the people who probably are in I couldn't afford it, so I'll do what I can anyway. But people have a very hard time of getting out of their own way.
Yes.
And that's why they need an organizer. But what they're getting from the book is, oh, I see how you do this, and I see that you know how to do it. That's fine. A lot of people, then, and this is the tough thing for authors, very few people actually read a book from
Hmm.
front to back. Less than 10% finish a book, which for an author who's just poured their heart and soul into it can be devastating, but they might have gotten what they needed. And they certainly got what you needed them to get, which is you. They've got
Hmm.
you there. And books, I've got books back there. I was on an interview yesterday, and this person, he handed me his book. It's been almost 10 years ago. And we were talking about books, and I said, yours is right there. I and I got a bunch of business cards that same day. I don't have the business cards, but I got his book.
Yes.
And 10 years later, we're having a conversation. So that's the power of a book. It's not so much does it get read or not, but how do you use it as a tool?
And that actually brings up a really good point because a lot of my clients that I'm working with in their homes, books are almost this like one of the very few things along with like photos and mementos, but books are up there with that of
Yeah,
like, well,
don't touch
I
them.
can't, yeah, I can't donate them, I can't
Yeah,
get rid of them, I can't, like, I need to keep them, they're
yeah,
books, like I need
yeah,
to hold on to these. And so, and even the people that are like, well, I have a Kindle now, and I'm like, right, you have a Kindle now, and they're like, no, 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 I still need my books. So like, book people are book people, like they're gonna hold on to their books. And exactly what you said, even if they've not read it or read much of it, they still know who the author is and they know what it is that book teaches for the most part, right? Like they at least know what, niche you're in and what you can do for them.
yeah.
So, I mean, and like you said, it's an extra income revenue, right? Like, why would we not diversify and have other ways of money coming in? Now, yes, it is the long game. I will go ahead and you can probably speak to this better than I can. What's the typical length of time it takes for someone that's like, okay, all right, Samantha and Lee, like you all, I want to write a book. I'm going to start today. At what point typically is it ready to go published? Because I know a lot of people do Amazon now too, right? Like not publishing through a publishing company.
So yeah, it is publishing. It's just it's self-publishing, or you might
Hmm.
do some assisted publishing. So let me see if I can break this down in a number of ways. I have one of my friends who decided to write a book. He had an idea for a book. From idea to published, he was done in about a month.
Oh,
So he dictated his book. He
uh-huh.
had the idea pretty much clear in his head. So he dictated his book. He got somebody to actually edit it for him because he's like, I don't, that's not my thing. So he had someone edit it. He had somebody else off of the internet to design the cover. He did it through, so KDP is the Amazon self-publishing thing. Kindle
Oh,
Direct
okay.
Publishing is what it stands for. But now it used to be you could only do it as an ebook, and now you can do it as print.
Hmm.
Not a big deal. It's just KDP. That's what it's called. And then there's Ingram Spark, which is the other one in that kind of area. So Ingram is a big distributor of books, like the big distributor of books. And so you can also use them. He did Ingram Spark. So that's how he did it. When he submitted it, it was up and going in, I think, about 24 hours after he submitted everything. So yeah, that's so it uses print on demand, and print on demand now looks like a printed book. You couldn't tell the difference, especially with Ingram Spark, because they do the same
Wow.
thing with regular books. That's how it's going now. Instead of having big warehouses, they have a big printer that's throwing out the books, even if it's from a major publisher. Okay, so let's call it a
Oh.
month from idea to book. Now, let's say you decide you're going traditional route, like the traditional publisher. You want a contract and all of that. From the time you have your book written until the time it hits like a store, it could be 2.5, up to 3 years from the written stage to being in the bookstore.
Okay, because that's what I figured like minimum a year. Because I was getting ready to say, guys, this is probably the long game. It's kind of like a podcast, right? Like you don't get paid to have a podcast. You make money through either like the membership, the courses,
Yeah.
the things that you set up along the way. Well, at this point, I've been doing this like 3 years, and thank God for my membership to bring in a little bit of money so I can keep it going. But to actually make any kind of like profit, I'm still really not like a lot of it's going right back into the business to keep it running.
Hmm.
And I tell my husband this all the time. I'm like, honey, it's the long game. Like to me, this is something, A, I enjoy it and I'm passionate about it and I know I'm
Right.
called to it, but it takes a lot of work and it takes a lot of time to get all the pieces. So I guess I assumed a book would be super similar, but it doesn't sound like it
It
really
doesn't
is.
it doesn't have to be, depending on how you do it. So let's go. I've known people. I was talking with an author a couple of days ago, and this person did traditionally publish, started
Hmm.
writing the book, and from starting to write the book until it actually made it to the bookstore was 10 years because it took them that long to write it. That's
Oh,
not necessary, though. Let's say you self-publish, which, by the way, is a really good option for most people.
right.
That is how a lot of people are going to do it. You could, as fast as you can get it written and edited, is as fast as you could have it ready to go. The person who did it in a month had a speech he was giving, and he wanted to have it there to do it. And so he was like madly getting it done in that month. But he showed up for his speech handing out books that were ready to go. So it doesn't
Nice.
have to take a long time, but you do want it to represent you. And that is the one thing I've realized. It's the same with a podcast, right? You're like, that is out there. It's not going anywhere. I mean,
Right.
you start thinking about how does that sound, not now, but in 10 years when somebody's listening to it.
Yes.
It's an
Yes.
asset you're building. And so I had another person who was doing the crash course, and I looked at it and went, whoa, slow down. You're crashing badly. I mean, it's not well written. The cover looked awful. Let's slow this down and back up. And because this is an asset that's going to be out there, it represents you as an organizer. It does
Yes.
say something about how you put into it. So I'm not suggesting you do it in a month. I'm just saying that would
It
be,
technically could be done in a month, but
could be done.
better to take your time. So typically, is it maybe like I mean, well, I guess it really just depends on the person, how much time they have, how quickly how
Yeah.
good they are at articulating. Do they have someone else at it versus themselves? So it's all those little pieces that determine the length of time. What are some tips that you have? So if someone's like, all right, you know what I do? I'll take even the next year and just slowly kind of put this thing together. And by this time next year, I'll have a book ready, right? What are some little like hidden secrets or gems you can give us that, like, hey, don't forget to do this or make sure you do this?
The number one is don't wait for inspiration. inspiration shows up when you do the work. So the people I know who are successful writing are not the ones who are going, I'm waiting for my beautiful view out the window to sit down and have whatever muses have to come to my life for me to do that, but they get up and do the work. I talk about it, so this is going to fit with organizing thing too. I talk about it as going pro. Like I'm going to take this on like it's a job. This is what I do. It's the same as, if you got a client and you're like, yeah, when I feel inspired to come organize your place, I'll come do it. You would never do that.
Right.
You're just like, I'll be there on Tuesday at 9 o'clock and we're going to get this wrapped up. Right. And so it's the same with the book. When I had a book idea, it was not my first, but when I was writing a book, so back to the podcast, I was actually taking a shower and I had this idea for a podcast. So I'll hop out and I write it all down. And my wife's kind of used to that and she just rolls her eyes. And so I write it down and I go do the episode. I record it. And at the end of the episode, I went, that's more than just a podcast episode. And so I
Hmm.
started walking through that. It just made me kind of process it. So I started writing that book in May and I self-published it and I did the work all the way through the summer and I still had a full-time caseload. And so come, I think it was August, mid-August, it was written and done. Like I had been actually writing it out, not dictating it, writing it out. And so it was ready to go in, what is that, 4 months or so?
Yeah.
That's a pretty fast pace, but manageable. I was doing it with a full-time job. So that tells you, I would say 4 to 6 months is if you've got the idea and you're clear about it and you put in the time to write it, that works. I've got several other books that I've written. I'm a morning person. So just to
Hmm.
claim, if you want me to write something at 7 o'clock at night, you're going to get
Not
trash.
happening. Yeah.
Nothing good. I had somebody who wanted to interview me at 8 o'clock at night. I'm like, I will be a zombie. You will
Yeah.
not get anything. 5 in the morning, absolutely. I'm your person, but not 8 at night. And so I got up at 5 and wrote until 6. And if I was in the middle of a sentence, I got up and went and did whatever else. And so it was an hour a day. And that took me, I think, 3 months to get most of the bulk written just in that period of time too. I think it might have been a little longer than that, but you start writing every day, it starts stacking up, and that's the thing is if you just do it
Mm.
consistently, probably like a lot like organizing, if you do it
Hmm.
consistently, you find
Yes.
your path. And so I think this is kind of in the natural wheelhouse of a lot of people who are organizing people because they naturally organize their life too. So just
Yeah.
organize when you're going to do it. And then I would say the other thing is to find a way of doing it that fits your personality. Some people do find it easy to dictate. I've got another person that has a friend who they record and just have a conversation back and forth about the topic. And then he takes that and gets it transcribed and then edits out the friend. And he's got his stuff because he's very extroverted and likes to have that conversation. I imagine
Ooh.
one person across from me when I'm writing, but I'm an introvert. And so I just am writing to that one person. There are lots of different ways you can do it. So you want to pick one that actually fits for you.
Yeah.
And again, just the one that doesn't work is I'll wait for inspiration. That's not a,
Right. Well, that's what I
that
was about
won't
to say
fit
because
you.
that whole consistency is key. It doesn't matter what it is, right? Like everybody wants a trick or a hack or a tip or a the trick is consistency for whatever it is in life you're doing. And like you said, even if that's 1 hour per day, whatever it is, whether it's your business, whether it's marketing your business, whether it's whatever the goal is, if you don't put energy and time into it on a consistent basis, you're never going to reach that goal. It's going to continue to elude you
Yeah.
because you're not doing the work to get there. That's why I always talk about planting seeds. I'm a big plant your seeds, be consistent and keep it simple. That's kind of our motto around here, right? Like it doesn't have to be overcomplicated. Plant seeds, but be consistent with it. Like that's the piece that everyone misses. But I do love what you said about the friend of yours that's extroverted that was talking to someone. Like, for instance, creating content. It's a very
Mhm.
similar thing. You got to kind of get inspired, figure out what your content is, figure out how you're going to create it, all the things. And a lot of us, we want or we need that like conversation with someone else, which is why coaching's a thing too. And I think it's an amazing thing. And so if you're really serious about it, even hiring a coach that you can sit and have those conversations with. But I think that's genius to have the conversations, edit the other person out. That's amazing.
And the technology now is so easy. I mean, you can have it on, you can have your phone out with one of the transcription apps, turn it on, let it record you, and you've got it. So that the friend that did it in a month, that's, I mean, it's basically dictating it as he was driving to work and using that as a major part of how he did his work. And so
Yeah.
that speeds it along. You can talk a lot faster than you can type, no matter what. So for people
Yes.
who like to talk it out, that's great. Editing does wonders for that. So let's kind of go back to one other, you said what other tips? One of the big tips I would suggest is do not write your book for everyone. If you write it for everyone, it will be for no one. We live in a world that has so much information that if
Hmm.
somebody wants a general guide to organizing their paperwork or whatever, AI is happy to hand it over to them. A Google search will give it to them. I mean, it's there. So you're trying to speak to your ideal person, whatever that
Yes.
is. And the more specific you can be, the better. Now, here's a difference. When I wrote about relationships, I can coach somebody on the other side of the world. Most organizers, I think, probably are like on the ground in person. And so you
Yeah.
have a geographic area. So if you can only be so specific before you're down to the five people in your area, right?
Right.
So you want to be broad enough, but still clear enough with who you like to work with and how you like to approach it. So they know your philosophy, they know kind of your brand, and they get a sense for who you are. That's what sells it.
Yeah. Well, and even for me, so I'll talk about this real quick. So I had an idea for a book and I want to hear if you think it's any good or not. Okay. So my idea was because I have my membership of women that have started the organizing business and we meet every Tuesday and I coach and all the stuff. My thought was, for a lot of people that have are learning to organize or declutter, there's plenty of people out there, and at first I was like, oh, I can do a book on like how to start your organizing business, which I could, but I already have the course and it's teaching you through it, and like so my thought was I would actually rather even maybe like take some of my members or all of my members and have each one of them give like their biggest tip, so it would almost be like a community of organizers each giving their own different tips on the best ways to declutter, or like one person specializes in ADHD, so maybe like one chapter's on ADHD, or whatever that looks like. I'm not sure exactly yet, but that was a thought I had not too long ago, and I haven't been able to pin down exactly what that would look like because it would include other people. So have you done any books like that where it includes multiple people?
I haven't, but that there are a lot of people who do anthologies, which is what you're talking about, where they have multiple authors. And the reason they do it is because somebody wants to be an author, but they don't
Mm-hmm.
want to write a whole book. And so they do a chapter. Yeah, they claim a chapter
Mm.
and they put it in. And so, organization in a disorganized world kind of thing would be broad enough that you could have lots of different approaches because that book would, in some ways, violate the down to a very specific niche, right? That's a
Right.
much a broader book. And so
Mm-hmm.
the reason you would do that, there are a couple of reasons. One is because somebody wants to get a feel for what it's like to do the writing that's in something, right? Just to get over that, because a lot of people have a lot of intimidation about it. And I will say from my side of it, there is no reason anymore to be intimidated about writing a book. The
Yeah.
resources are there, but many people still have that. So an anthology gets them into kind of the saddle pretty easily. The
Mm-hmm.
second thing is there you get some status from being a bestseller because those anthologies are actually set up. So everybody will send it out to their community to get people in their community to make the sale. So you get a lot of sales in a short amount of time, and you can be an Amazon bestseller, which when people say
No.
they're a best-selling author, they don't have to say I was the Wall Street Journal best. I mean, they just say I'm a best-selling author. So Amazon bestseller
Right.
is pretty easy to get for those anthologies just because you have a group of people who are doing it all at once. And so that's a strategy for getting people in the saddle, able to say best-selling author, able to also have something like when they go speak that they didn't have to
Mm-hmm.
create on their own, right? You do the publishing and they can buy the author copies and that kind of thing. And then when they are at a Rotary or whatever club to speak on organizing, they can say, oh, and I have a chapter in this book. So there's
Yes.
credibility built into that. There's a lot of stuff to that. It also gives you a way of gathering the people and saying, let's do this as a group. And that's cool
Absolutely.
for everybody.
Yeah. Well, and then my other thing too was because, like you were saying, as an organizer, we're very geographically, honed in. And so I've been trying to think of ways that other people, like if someone was like, "Oh, Samantha, I love the way that you organize, but I don't live in Knoxville. Oh, but I do live in Jacksonville. Oh, I actually have an organizer in Jacksonville that works very similarly to the way I do because she's a part of my community." Things like that. Like
Mhm.
that's just kind of like the thought process for. But I love that you said I wrote down anthology. I'm going to definitely do my research. Well, thank you so much. Tell everyone like where they can find you and all of those good things.
Yeah, so booktobusinessblueprint.com is where you can find me. And there are a couple of things there. One is a starter map for people who are trying to figure out like what do you do with that book? It gives you a starter map. I do have a podcast there about my experience. And actually right now I'm in a series of answering questions from other authors of where they got stuck and couldn't figure out how to build a business. So there's some specifics. But the big piece of that is that we have a once per week process. There's an issue each week that comes out that says, here's what you need to do to build your business sustainably, one step at a time, without overwhelm. And in the world of, organizing, not being overwhelmed is a key part. And so a lot of times people, when they're trying to build a business, they jump into some program that's got like, you need to do these 30 things right now, and no 30 things get done, right? So we do one thing
Yes.
a week. It's designed to help people with a book. However, if you need help with organizing the book or anything else, I also do coaching with that. And you can just contact me at booktobusinessblueprint.com.
Love it. Well, thank you so much for coming on the
Thank you.
show. It's been such a pleasure. And then for all of you, go check him out. All the links will be in the show notes. And then for all of you listening, we appreciate you and we'll catch you in the next episode. Thanks, Lee.